I am Nicolas Gemio. I work for B Europe. We are based in Amsterdam, and I'm very excited about today's webinar for different reasons. It's an investment of time for you. It's an investment of time for us. So let's really try to make the most out of it. Ask as many questions as you want. Make sure that by next week, Monday morning, you feel fully equipped to start your organization's impact journey. And I'm very happy to be joined today by S360. We develop standards at B Lab. I'll explain about that in a moment, but we always say that the actual positive impact is not done by us, but obviously by companies and the B Corp community. And S360 became a certified B Corp almost 10 years ago now, in 2014. They are headquartered in Turkey, and they offer strategic advice to address today's society's most important sustainability challenges by putting shared value into practice and by finding opportunities. Briefly, they connect profit with purpose. So I'm very happy to have here today as a co-host Irmak Buyukutku. Irmak, would you like to share something else about yourself or S360?
Yeah, sure. Thank you, Nico. Thank you for inviting me, first of all. Yeah, I'm very excited to be here. I'm Irmak. I'm the team leader for the Research and Impact Design team at S360. As Nico mentioned, we're a sustainability consultancy company based in Turkey, and we mainly work with private sector clients to improve their sustainability performance. And above that, we are very proud to be a B Corp certified company. And at first, actually, we were the representatives for the Turkish B Corp community, but then the system changed. But because of that, we also had a lot of opportunity to support the companies while they were in their B Corp journey. So I would like to share those experiences with you as well. So I'm very glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you, Irmak. For those of you who just entered, if you haven't done it yet, you can still introduce yourselves in the chat. We are recording, and you will receive the recording afterwards in case you want to share with others. We're also repeating these sessions every month or so you can also invite friends who you think could benefit. And I have in front of me today's agenda. A small last remark about the chat. You can put your questions or comments there, or keep them for the end, and then go off mute and share them directly. And thank you for those of you who are still introducing yourselves in the chat. A lot of diversity, as I said. I'm going to start introducing the B Corp movement, a few words about B Lab for those of you who don't know what we do as an organization. Then we're going to dive into the B Impact Assessment, the free online tool that we make available for all organizations, for profit and non-profit, to measure their impact. And last, so that's the focus of today's webinar. And last, we're going to talk about B Corp certification, which is something that some of you I know are interested in. It's not something necessary. It's the cherry on top of impact measurement and management. But hopefully we'll have time to talk about that and any questions or next steps that may arise. We're in the moment going through a global culture shift. It's inevitable. I hope all of you agree with me that businesses are realizing more and more that they have the power and tools to address some of society's greatest challenges. In some cases, more tools than governments, individual citizens. And so it's an opportunity really for all businesses. And some people say that we're going actually through a transition of what capitalism is. And in the last century, we saw shareholder capitalism flourishing, and that was characterized by the value that it was created being sometimes exclusive to the shareholders, to the owners of companies. Sometimes it could be cashed in or prioritized in the short term. And more often than not, unfortunately, that's still the case today. Economic activity is extractive of the ecosystems where it takes place. But some people think, and we agree, have some hope that we're transitioning to a form of capitalism where the value created is shared more inclusively between stakeholders, between the members of society. There is an increasing expectation from consumers, the markets, that this value is created for the long term. And, you know, citizens, consumers, governments have more and more tools to really understand if a company is creating value for the short term or the long term. And there is also an expectation that this economic activity is regenerative of the ecosystems where it takes place, not just the natural ecosystems, but also the social ecosystems. So in this context, B Lab as a nonprofit organization was born. Our vision is that of an inclusive, equitable, and regenerative economic system for all people and the planet. It's an ambitious vision. We know it's quite hard to achieve. And we want to change the behavior of businesses and, very importantly, the cultural expectations of the role of business in society and what it means to be successful. Is that something that we can even change? This is, excuse the very complicated graphic, don't try to read it, but this is B Lab's theory of change. And the reason why I put this on screen is because I wonder, if you work for an organization or even for yourself, I wonder if you have a theory of change, something put on paper, visualized in your website somehow, where you show what is the problem that you want to address, what are the key stakeholders that you need to work with or you need help from, and what are the strategies, practical strategies that you have in place to achieve that change. So this is a question to you. I'm showing this on screen again as inspiration. Perhaps it's something that your organization didn't have and can start working on. And I'm actually sending a poll for you where you can share, and then we can see the percentage of, you know, the question is, does your organization have in place at the moment a theory of change? And ideally something that, you know, you share publicly, either on your website or maybe your employee handbook. What is the problem that you're trying to fix? What are the different stakeholders that you need to collaborate with? And what are the practical strategies that you have in place to solve that problem? And most people replied, as in, maybe we should have that, but we don't have it at the moment. So that's 60%, most of people in the room. Thank you for sharing. And I'm going to zoom in just for an extra moment on B Lab strategies as an organization. For you to know, our first goal is to drive the adoption of sustainability standards. And, you know, we have sustainability standards that live in the B Impact Assessment, which is the tool that we're going to look into today. But really, any sustainability standards are better than none. So that's our first goal. Our second goal is certifying businesses, so verifying that positive impact that they have captured. The third thing that we do is broadcasting business as an equitable force of good, so sharing stories of positive impact from B Corps, but also non-B Corps. The fourth key thing that we do is catalyzing policy change. So we put resources and we hire people to try to influence policymaking and change the rules of the game so that one day all business has to be a force for good by law. And that day, B Corp certification will no longer be needed. And the last thing that we put energy into is more broadly developing a network of local, regional, and global communities for change. And that's also what we're doing here together, simply by joining and having this conversation. Who we are, this is the slide about the global network that we're part of. There are different B Labs. As I said, it's a network of nonprofits. The numbers on the right side get outdated quite quickly, but at the moment, there are 7,400 companies that have completed B Corp certification. So they have measured their impact with the BIA and they have gone for certification. Many, many industries and one unifying goal. This is our team at the B Lab Europe office in Amsterdam, and we are there for you. we are the point of contact for all those countries in Europe where there is not a local B Lab. So yeah, it's a great pleasure to be able to work with companies, especially in pioneering regions where the B Corp movement is just getting started. There are a few B Corps or non-B Corps. That's my day-to-day, and I'm really grateful that I get to do that. Behind the B Impact Assessment are B Lab standards. B Lab recognizes that high-quality social and environmental business standards demand continuous improvement in order to meet principles of inclusion, independence, and credibility. And there is a link here that when you receive the slide deck, you'll be able to click on, but I'm also sharing it here on the chat about how B Lab standards are developed. We go through thorough stakeholder consultation, and there is a standards advisory council, a group of around 15 experts, and none of them work at B Lab. They govern the standards ultimately. We update these standards every 3 years or so, and we're currently in an evolution phase where we have run a couple of consultations to B Corps and non-B Corps. We're reviewing the results now, and in the coming year, there will be yet another consultation to see really what is the expectation from B Corps and non-B Corps about what are ambitious but attainable sustainability standards to live in the B Impact Assessment for companies to use. And we will see the new standards coming to life towards the end of next year or 2025. And there is also, if you go to this this section of our website, you'll see also the draft with, it's like a 90-page document where really you're looking at what the future of corporate sustainability can look like in a way. In summary, what is B Corp? It's the assessment, the certification to recognize top performers, the legal change, which is something that is available in some European countries. I'll talk about that more later. And of course, the community of B Corps and the collective leadership that comes from it. We're learning every day from them, and it's really what makes a difference in this movement. The standards are important, but what companies like yours do with them and inspiring other companies as well, that's what really matters. Yeah, and this is the growth in the last few years of certified B Corps in Europe. We have been trying to cope with that growth as much as we've been able to, and we are still doing it so that hopefully companies don't have to wait too long to hear from us, and that growth is sustainable and meaningful. Last, about this part, the B Corp community is good company to keep, and I want to share with you the public B Corp directory in case that you have never visited that. It's a section of our on our website where you can see all certified B Corps across the globe, among those 7,400 or so, among sectors, countries, even specific industries. So I just shared that on the chat and invite you to have a look. Before we dive into the B Impact Assessment, I'm going to stop sharing screen, and before I pass it to Irmak, I'm going to share another poll, because there is also a lot of diversity usually about how much experience you have using the B Impact Assessment. So I'm sharing that poll now, and you can vote from 0 to 10. It's also important for Irmak and myself to get a picture of that. So 0 would be, I don't even remember what I signed up for today. And 10 would be, I have a lot of experience. I've brought my company through certification, or I use the impact assessment, let's say, every week. So it's interesting. Oh, some 7s coming up. Okay. The experts in the room, I'm really looking forward to your questions. And again, to learn as much as possible in this little time that we have together. So some 7s, but it's actually mainly zeros. So most people, I should not say BIA again, better to pronounce all the acronyms today to make sure that everyone knows what we're referring to. And yeah, if anything is unclear, oh, I'm sharing the results. You couldn't see them before. If anything is unclear, please share on the chat. Irmak, are you able to share the slide deck? Otherwise, I can also do it myself. Just let me know.
I think I did it. I just need to,
Yeah.
yeah.
And if you click on
Great.
slideshow, perfect. The
Yeah.
floor is yours.
Great. So hopefully after this part, the numbers will increase towards the higher numbers. So I will talk a little bit about the B impact assessment, BIA for short, and how can you use it to track and improve your performance. So this is a tool that we love at S360, and I think consultants as general, because it gives a great idea to help companies on how they can improve their performance. So it has 5 main areas, basically. Workers, environment, governance, customers, community, and it has a lot of different questions and sub areas where you need to address when you are going through the assessment. And it has more than 200 questions, I think, if I'm not mistaken. So it can feel a bit overwhelming when you start the journey, but you don't have to worry. Actually, the tool is very user-friendly, and it helps you a lot throughout the process. And if you need more information about a certain question, for example, it gives you more explanation, or it gives you examples on how you can answer the question. So yeah, it can feel a bit overwhelming, but you don't need to worry, I think. And we usually, as sustainability consultants, we advise the companies that we work with to use this tool, whether they want to become a B Corp certified company or not. Sometimes they don't have the performance yet. Sometimes they can't because of their status or other things. But it is very useful to just look at it and just look at what is being asked and look at how where you are lacking. So one thing that is very cool about this is that it is completely free. And it is confidential to use. So even the consultants or B Corp Way partners, which Nico will talk about later, do not have access to your answers. So, as I mentioned, it has more than 200 questions, so it is very encompassing. And it gives you a chance to actually benchmark your performance across your sector, your geography, so you have an idea where you are, and also where you need to improve. Because while you are answering the questions, you can see how many points you get for each question, and if you had answered in a different way, how many questions you would get. So it is very clear in terms of creating your own roadmap for your company. So I will talk a little bit about the initial process that you need to do when you are signing up. It is very important for you to pick the right track for you, because the questions can differ according to your selections. So it is important that you do this, but even if you do not do it correctly the first time, you can also update it later on. But there are 3 criteria that is looked at to put you on the right path for the assessment. One is the market. Whether you are from a developed market or not, I will talk a bit detailed later, and the sector and size of your company. So for the markets, as I mentioned, there are 2 tracks for the developed markets. One is for USA, and the others are the other developed markets such as Canada, Western Europe, Australia, Japan, Singapore, Korea. And for the emerging markets, there is another different track. And for sectors, there are 5 different sectors. that you need to choose from according to your main business. So agriculture, manufacturing, wholesale, retail, service with a minor environmental footprint, and service with significant environmental footprint. And for the size of your company, actually, the BAA gives you clear guidance on how you can actually count the number of people. But it is important that you put people that are on your payroll to do the calculation according to that. But as I said, it gives you clear instructions on how you can do that. So some of the questions and the scoring differentiates according to your track, but the industry generally most of the time does not differentiate. But there are some exceptions. So for example, if you're in the building and real estate industry, financial services, education, there are some dedicated tracks for that. So you need to be aware of that. And as I also mentioned, you can update it if you need to if you think that you're in the wrong track. So for the actual assessment, there are two different question types in the assessment. And one is questions that try to measure your operational impact. So your day-to-day performance as a company and whether you are operating in a more sustainable way. And the other one is the impact business model questions. I will talk in detail for that. But to give a quick overview, it actually looks at whether you create a specific impact on a certain types of stakeholders. So it is very unique to the company, and also it is unique to the BAA as well. So Nico mentioned a lot of these things, but the questions are renewed every 3 years, and they are developed according to the global and local developments. And also you need to also recertify every 3 years after getting your certification. So it keeps you very updated, and you always feel the need to improve yourself throughout the process. So for the operational impact questions, there are 5 main areas, as I talked about: the governance, workers, community, environment, and customers. So there are questions, sub areas for each of these headings, and it looks at different angles. For example, for workers, it has questions related to health and wellness, career development, engagement, satisfaction. For environment, water, air and climate. For community, civic engagement, supply chain management. So there are many different areas that you need to measure your performance. And after filling up the assessment, there are some things that you can do to improve your performance for these questions. As a B Corp Way consultant company and a consultancy company that has been a B Corp certified company for a long time, we actually work with clients in these cases. And so there are some quick wins throughout the assessment. For example, these are some of the actions that your company can take in a very short term that does not require a lot of resources or fundamental changes. For example, you have some environmental practices in your company, but they are not actually written down, and it is not in the format of a policy, for example, but it is very easy to establish that and do that quickly. So there are questions that you can work on and improve yourself in a very short amount of time. But also there are questions that require long-term improvements as well. This may be due to things that are hard to change, that are fundamental. For example, how many of your board of directors identify as women, or it is hard to improve because it's a question about the last 12 months of your company. So it is important to identify these quick wins and long-term improvements. At S360, for example, we create this kind of roadmap when we work with clients, and it gives you it gives the company an idea roadmap where they need to improve, which area, and we also share some good practice examples with them, and how many months or how long the duration will be for them to actually implement the action. And we try to work with the teams that will be responsible for the action. For example, if it's about the workers, we get together with the HR team. We create small teams for that, so it can be also helpful for you as well. But I need to also point out that not as a company, you do not have to actually improve yourself in every single question in every single area, because of course there are some things that will be more important to you for your sector or for your geography. So it is sometimes maybe more good for you to create a strategy first, look at your materiality areas, and then try to have a roadmap. And what is good about the BIA is actually it's also very in line with the global methodologies, other methodologies that tracks your performance. So when you improve in those areas, you actually improve in BIA and vice versa. So it can be a good idea to create a new strategy, develop a new strategy and your material areas if you are not sure where to begin. So I just also wanted to give a few quick examples how we improved our performance as S360 throughout the years, because as I mentioned, once you have the B Corp certification, the process does not end there. You need to recertify, and as the B Corp community, you also always feel the need to improve yourself and get higher scores. So, for example, for workers, there's a question regarding profit sharing. So we actually implemented this in our company, and so we as employees now have a profit sharing model. And for the community, for example, it is important to share with the community. So we developed a new program called S360 Fellowship, where we actually train new sustainability professionals that want to become a part of the community. And for the environment, for example, we are actually a company with minor environmental footprint. We are in that sector, but still we wanted to improve our performance. So we switched to a shared working area that improved our performance in that regard. And for customers, as a B Corp certified company, we take it as a mission to raise awareness of our customers. So we have knowledge sharing around that area. So also it gave us a motivation to do that. So I will talk a bit about impact business models. If you do not have any questions, I can't see the questions. So if you do, maybe, okay, I don't think there's a question. So for the impact business models, it is unique for the BIA, as I mentioned, because there are many other global methodologies that tracks your sustainability performance, but this specifically looks at whether you have a business model that creates an impact, a specific impact. So it differentiates from the other methodologies, and it is unique to the company if you have an impact business model, and it should create a significant positive effect for one or more of its stakeholders. And it should be linked to the core business, its business model, as the name suggests. Of course, it needs to be verifiable. There are questions that try to understand whether you actually have an impact business model or not, and also because it is linked to your business model, it should be lasting and it should be extraordinary. Under these headings, again, these 5 areas, there are questions that try to identify whether you have an impact business model in these areas. So for example, for workers, if you're a worker-owned company, then you probably have an impact business model under that area. For community, it asks question whether your company has practices that contributes to poverty elevation, or is it designed to give? For environment, it looks at practices not only whether you're operating more sustainably, but whether it is actually linked to your business model. So I want to share a few examples from the Turkish B Corp community for these impact business models. For example, Semtrio, another sustainability consultancy company, has an impact business model under workforce development. And Fazla is actually a waste company, so it collects waste, and so that's why it's under the environment impact business model under resource conservation. A Reflex Studio is a textile company based in Turkey, and they are under the toxin reduction impact business model. And we at S360 are part of the education impact business model because we have knowledge sharing around sustainability, and we improve our clients' performance in those areas. So if a company has an impact business model, actually you can see it on the website. As Nico mentioned, you can look through companies who are B Corp certified companies, and when you see these types of different differentiation, you can understand that the company has an impact business model in that area. And also, if you have an impact business model, then I can also mention that you will have higher scores generally, because it gives you more chance to collect more score and improve your performance. So what I also wanted to mention here is many of the companies think that they have an impact business model when they do not. So it is very important to identify that. It is not very common for a company to have an impact business model actually. When you're going through the assessment, if you're answering questions of more than one impact business models, for example, you need to be careful, because it is very, very extraordinary if you have more than one impact business models, if one. So it is, as consultants, we also try to work with clients to understand whether they actually have an impact business model or not. Because a lot of the time, if you submit the assessment thinking that your scores will get very low in the end. And it is very important to actually, stay away from greenwashing in that area. But if you have an impact business model, then it's great. Then also it is important to communicate this impact business model in that area as well. So we actually can help with that as well. So I will give the word back to Nico to talk a little bit about the functionalities of the BIA.
Thank you so much, Irmak. I don't think you could have been clearer and also much more efficient than when I present this part. Before we move on, I see the only question on the chat from Lynn is about, she's curious about your fellowship at S360. So if you want at the end of the presentation, you can share more. And let's talk about the functionalities of the B Impact Assessment. I keep saying having B Corp certification as a goal is good, but the first thing really is to spend a few minutes, get playing with the B Impact Assessment. If you spend 15 minutes on the B Impact Assessment, you will get 7 ideas of things that you can do better at your organization. And so that's just by going through the assessment question after question. As Irmak said, there are around 200 across the different impact areas. But for those of you who are already a bit more into the tool, who have spent already a few hours, or you've invited colleagues to work on it together, it may be worth for you exploring the different features and functionalities that it has. So the first thing on the left side panel, once you're inside and have your account, so this is a fake account, it's called BI Webinar. And on the left side panel, there is this button that says question filter. When you click on it, a panel on the right side will come up and you'll be able to filter among those 200 questions or so, according to the question type, if it's impact business model or operations, the different impact areas, so community, environment, customers, etc. About the points, this is an interesting filter. You can filter out to see where you are leaving more points on the table, so where you are performing not so well. And you can, so if you use that filter and you say, for instance, show me questions where we have had at least 0.5 points or 1 point. On average, those would be questions where you're doing well as an organization, or you know, you're doing better than most organizations. And also the other way around, you can filter where it says available points there on the right side of the screen. If you say, I want to see the questions where we are leaving on the table 0.5 points or more, you'll get a specific report of all the questions where there is still room for improvement. Another interesting feature is benchmarks. So on the left side panel, reports, and then BI performance, you will see your performance compared against those of other companies using the assessment that have already completed the assessment, whether they are certified or not. And you can compare against your country, sector, size range. You can also compare, do the same, but for these different sub areas within each impact area. And on the left side panel, where it says improvement report, the B impact assessment will automatically generate for you a selection of questions where you can still do better. So imagine if you've completed the assessment, have answered all the questions, and you're still not reaching 80 points, and you want to reach 80 points or more, coming here to the improvement report can be an easy way to find low-hanging fruits. As Irma said, working with a consultant obviously makes that easier because they can find those improvements faster for you. But if you want to do it yourself, one way is through the improvement report. And a very important feature that I think Irma also mentioned, but just to emphasize and show you on screen, is the goals feature. So over every question, you will see that star symbol. If you click on it, you'll be able to set a goal. So imagine we take this question as an example. What was the percentage of per capita worker time donated as volunteer, community service, or pro bono time in the reporting period, say last year? And for most organizations, for most companies, the answer will probably be don't know, or 0%. And imagine that you want to change that because, you know, it's something that your employees can be excited about, doesn't include any upfront costs or investments. And you can start with 0.1 or 0.5% of worker time, which would be, you know, maybe a few hours a year, up to 2% or more, which would be a full week of volunteering during paid working hours. So imagine that you want to change that. If you go next on the goal, you can select which is the desired answer. You can add notes, and the notes are very useful if you're working on the B impact assessment along with colleagues. You can describe in the notes who set the goal or why you're setting it, then put a due date, so a date when you expect to achieve that goal. And this is really what makes a difference: receive email reminders. You can receive, you and everyone else who's on the B impact assessment with you. And I think we didn't mention it, but you can bring in as many colleagues as you want on the B impact assessment. You will all receive an email reminder when the date is approached, and if you haven't marked the goal as completed yet. So this is a super useful feature, whether you want to get closer to 80 points, or maybe you have already achieved B Corp certification and you just want to make improvements for the next recertification cycle. I really, really recommend. It's my favorite feature in the BI. And if you go to a left side panel where it says goals, you will see the whole selection of different goals that you have set. And yeah, you can mark it as complete when you're done with it. And the BI will also automatically select some of the questions where you may want to set a goal, and this is how the improvement report integrates into this goals section. And a last feature I want to talk about is the support pop-up on the lower right corner of the screen. That's direct access to B Lab's knowledge base. And this is our Wikipedia. I strongly suggest having a look at it. If you're going through the assessment and you have questions, the first thing to do is to have a look at the knowledge base. So I'm sharing the link on the chat, and it will be very useful really when you get stuck on a question. There is also the learn more button. There's a learn more tab in every single question. If you don't find the answer there, come to the knowledge base. If you don't find the answer in the knowledge base, send us an email. So yeah, this is an example of how you could search directly there in the support pop-up and access articles on our knowledge base. Some best practices before we finish with that part. We encourage you to start formalizing policies. Sometimes measuring impact starts with simply formalizing what you are already doing well. Write down policies about things that you're already happy that you're doing, but maybe it's nowhere on paper, the employees can't see it, so that applies to things like preference for local suppliers, the volunteer policy we just talked about. Formalize them, put them on paper, create a Google Drive, track impact metrics. So on that Google Drive, you will also need to start creating spreadsheets and putting numbers to those goals that you have set and all those improvements. So tracking is the one thing that you need to get better at if you want to improve your impact. We can't improve what we don't measure. And also for those of you interested in B Corp certification, an important part of verifying your impact is showing those metrics to an analyst. Third, include your suppliers. Tell them that you're doing this. Some of them may think that you are crazy, may not understand, but even if it's just going through the impact assessment, share it with the world, and including your suppliers, including your supply chain, or even inspiring them to do the same can have a very, very big positive impact. And the last thing, change your governing documents. Acknowledge, if you can, that you are accountable for all impact that you have on all stakeholders in society. Put that in your governing documents, in your constitution. I'm sharing here on the chat more about that, the legal requirement for many European countries. Doing that is actually a requirement to pursue B Corp certification. And it can be a small symbolic thing that no one knows about when you make that change, or it can be something really to be proud about, to communicate to the outside world. And that also gives permission to executives and to directors to prioritize other stakeholders and the benefit of people and planet ahead of short-term profits. And the last part about B Corp certification, for those of you who are interested, again, I'm scanning quickly the chat, and there is this question from Lynn. Do consultants require certification, accreditation, training from B Corp to work with clients on the B impact assessment? That's a great question, Lynn. You don't require it, However, for consultancies like S360, there is this program called B Corp Way Partners. I'll say more in a moment. And in many countries, we also run a training called B Leaders. And that's a training specific for independent consultants. And yeah, without that training, it will be hard for you to gain the experience and insights to guide a company successfully. But you know, as Irmak said, the B Impact assessment is free and open, so you can do as you like as part of your consultancy practice. Who is eligible for B Corp certification? For-profit companies. We don't certify non-profits because we think that they have already a mission well embedded in their DNA. We as B Lab Europe, for instance, also use the B Impact assessment. It's something that I'm very involved in internally, see what we can improve on, but there is no such a thing as certification for nonprofits. So all for-profit companies, any size or location, so it's a global framework, really, and at least 1 year of operations. So two small caveats here for companies with less than 12 months of operations. In some countries, there is something called pending B, which is a special status for startups that complete the legal requirement that I mentioned a moment ago, but they don't have enough data basically to apply for full B Corp certification and get verified. So that's pending B, available for some startups or companies with less than 12 months of operations. And there is another thing, which is controversial industries for which B Lab doesn't have a standard at the moment. Those are, I would say, the exception of for-profit companies that were not able to certify yet. And I am sharing in the chat a link to that section of our website. If you believe that you are working in a controversial industry or an industry with high risks to people or planet, have a look at that section of the website before pursuing B Corp certification. Same applies if you have significant customers in those industries. It's something we don't talk a lot about upfront, but definitely to be mindful of if you pursue B Corp certification. And I see another comment from Lynn. Last training webinar mentioned February training. I am not sure what you're referring to, Lynn, but we can connect afterwards. Maybe if you're in Ireland, you're referring to that, to a new B Leaders training in Ireland. Let's connect afterwards. Would be amazing if you join. So moving on, the two things that you need to become a certified B Corp is to pass the assessment with at least 80 points across the different impact areas. We recommend submitting the assessment only with 85 points or above. Why? Because most companies actually lose points through the verification process. You can have a very high score when you submit, but your verified score after the review will be something different. So try to be conservative also in your answers. That's what we recommend. Be realistic. Remember what are the things that you're able to prove to the outside world, and get at least 85 or 90 points if you're submitting for B Corp certification. Ideally, speak to one of us at B Lab Europe or your local B Lab before submitting. It's also a good idea if you're not working with a consultant already. And the second thing that we require, as I said before, for many countries, is to make that legal change. Change those two clauses in your constitution or your governing documents to acknowledge that you are accountable for all impact that you have, which is kind of common sense, right? But still, many companies get away without being accountable for their negative impacts. And yeah, if you go to the link that I shared earlier about the legal requirement, you'll be able to see if this is something that applies to your country or not. If it doesn't apply to your country, then you can submit for a certification. And in the B Corp agreement, you will make a commitment that if this legal change or this legal text becomes available, you will implement it. If we do have a legal requirement, you will have usually until the end of the certification process to make that change. And for larger companies, you will have until 1 or 2 years after, depending on the country, to make that change to your governing documents. In some cases, this can be highly bureaucratical and need rounds of approval from different parts of the company. So for bigger companies, this doesn't need to be completed just at the time of certification. And I'm going to address directly a question on the chat, which reads as follows. If we don't achieve 80 points after the audit, how many years or months do we have to review our results in order to achieve plus 80 points and to get the certification? Excellent questions. If your score falls to 75 points, you'll be able to enter a revision stage where you can still make some improvements and get back to 80 points. If you're below 75 points in that review process with your analyst, then your review will be closed. And I think we require you to wait 6 months at least to submit your assessment for review again. And there is also a submission fee involved. So obviously we discourage you from submitting if you're not sure that you will be able to pass the whole review. And Rui is also asking, the 80 points are with the points gained with the legal change? Yeah, that's correct, Rui, sorry. So depending on where you are, if there is a legal requirement in your country and you are able to make that change, that will give you 10 points. And that's the mission lock impact basis model that we mentioned earlier. If you're in a country where there is no legal requirement, the maximum that you can get is 2.5 points just for making this commitment that if B Lab creates a legal requirement, you will implement it. Or I believe 7.5 points if you're a cooperative. That would be the exception. Do you have any templates for tracking the metrics associated to the questions, says Tom? We don't. I'm sure S360 has. So speak to them, maybe either after the call or another time. We don't have, because companies vary so much that it really depends the size and the nature of your company, the kind of template and how complicated it is. So unfortunately, we don't have these templates. You only have the B impact assessment. You could, you can also make some comments under each question if you want to remind yourself of the metric that you used perhaps to answer that question, but we don't have that. I'm sorry. It's a good idea. Maybe we should look into it. And just a recap of the certification process. Complete the assessment with 80 points, ideally 85, 90. Submit for review, then you will enter evaluation queue. You'll still have a few weeks or months at worst to make improvements while you wait in the evaluation queue. Then an evaluation analyst will be assigned to you, and they will run an initial check of your assessment. They will check your track. They will check that you're not getting points for many impact business models, which, as Irmak said, is very rare and unrealistic. It's kind of a preliminary check. You won't be asked for much documentation at that stage. But if that's all good, you will move to verification queue. You will, again, be in contact with your local B Lab or B Lab Europe. And when a verification analyst gets assigned to you, that's a more in-depth part of your review. You will be asked for lots of documentation for most of the questions on your B impact assessment, particularly the ones about impact business models and about operational impact. Sometimes you will be asked for documentation and sometimes not. And you will also have a review call with your analyst where you will clarify any doubts that they may have. If that goes well and you're still above 80 points, then the time will come to sign the B Corp agreement, which is a document that says, you know, what you have achieved, what recertification looks like in 3 years if you want to continue being a B Corp and maintaining your certification in good status. There is also a declaration of interdependence, which summarizes the whole philosophy of this movement. And in the B Corp agreement, it will also say what you can and can't do with the certification. So how to use the logos and plenty of guidance around that. And last but not least, pay the invoice. Companies pay a yearly certification fee based on their annual revenues. And the fees range from 1,000 euros a year to 50,000 euros for multinationals with very high revenues. You can see that very clearly and transparently on the B Lab Europe website. And because we are doing well on time, I'm going to share that link with you as well, see if any questions come up. I just shared that on the chat. Tristan is asking, how often has to be the certification passed, or for how long does it last? So Tristan, it's 3 years that you need when you need to submit another new assessment for recertification. The process is exactly the same. It will be a bit easier because obviously you've done it already 3 years ago. During this period, of course, you will be in close contact. So in that 3-year frame, you will be in close contact with B Lab. You'll be in close contact with the B Corp community at the European or local level. We put a lot of energy into that, and we will also help you prepare for that recertification. Sometimes perhaps the person in your company who led the project left, or you no longer know how to deal with the B impact assessment, or something major has changed. For ownership changes or structure changes, we actually ask you to notify us in advance, and this may trigger an early recertification. All of that actually is contemplated in the B Corp agreement, what things you need to let us know about if something important changes in the company. But usually it's every 3 years that you need to recertify, and it's an opportunity to obviously improve your score, perhaps create a new impact business model that you didn't have. And it's really at the core of our philosophy of continuous improvement. A note about related entities. If you are part of a business group, this will be very relevant for you. So depending on the complexity of the organizational structure or the entities in the group, the pathway towards certification might look different. And I'm going into a bit of specifics here, but it's very important that we get this right from the beginning so that you don't waste time. We will help you do a preliminary check, or if you're working with a consultant, again, it will be even faster, to let you know at what level you need to do that legal change. If it's a group with different entities, which ones need to make the legal requirement and which ones don't. The entities covered by the scope of the B impact assessment, which entities you're including, and are you able to exclude any? And the number of B impact assessments. If we're thinking about multinationals or large groups, one B impact assessment may not be enough to capture the whole impact of the organization. General rule, again, for those of you who may be in this scenario and could benefit from some early advice, if the company has wholly owned or majority owned subsidiaries, they need to be in the scope of the B impact assessment always. You can't choose to keep them out of and not certify them. We don't allow for that. It would be kind of unfair because this company relies on you and your decisions. So you need to be as a majority or wholly owned subsidiary. So you need to be accountable for the decisions that you make on their behalf. So you need to include them in the B impact assessment. And this legal change, if it applies in your country, when it's met at the parent level, it extends automatically to wholly owned subsidiaries, but it doesn't extend automatically to majority-owned subsidiaries. Majority-owned subsidiaries will also need to change their articles of association. For all the countries where we don't have a legal requirement yet, it's very hard because we don't have a big legal team, but we're really trying that this legal text is created as soon as possible for all European countries, because it makes it easier for companies to achieve certification if they make that change. And we think it's also a very symbolic win at the national level for stakeholder governance and stakeholder capitalism. So yeah, if you know that there is no such legal text or legal requirement in your country, and you have friends with expertise that could chip in, or lawyers, please put them in touch with me. I would love to speak to them. So if you have any related entities, again, different legal entities in the structure or different brands, please get in touch with us or with a consultant, and we'll help you run this preliminary check so that you start with the right foot on the impact assessment. And I talked a lot, so I'm sorry for that. I see Lynn asking on the chat, which European countries have it as have a legal requirement now? So I shared the link earlier. Let me see if I can get it back. Here it is, Lynn. And there you will be able to click on a drop-down menu kind of thing. Well, it explains why B Lab has a legal requirement and why we think it's so important. And there is a drop-down menu where you'll be able to click on your country and see if there is this legal requirement for certification or not. And I can see, yes, Irma, you're still there. Thank you. Irma, you have a lot of experience supporting organizations in their impact journey when they aspire to B Corp certification. What things should they bear in mind when they communicate to the outside world? Because sometimes they're very excited about sharing, right?
Yeah, it's very important that we talk about what we will talk about regarding the logos, I think, because it is a very sensitive area. But then on some good note, I will also share how, after becoming a B Corp certified company, how you can actually communicate your impact, and why it is important that if you can, being a B Corp certified company. So some quick do's and don'ts. You do not use the certified B Corporation logo when you have an intention to become a B Corp certified company. So we understand that it can be very exciting if you're in the process and you want to share that with the whole world, but without actually completing the process and getting the certification, you shouldn't use the B Corp certification logo. And also, you shouldn't also use language that implies that you will get the certification, because as we talked about, things can change during the verification stage. So it shouldn't be a good idea to talk about that until you actually have your certification. And also, there's a pending B logo for companies that are a startup and haven't completed their 1 year of operation. But also, you shouldn't also use that to imply that you're in the process. So it can be a little bit confusing, maybe seeing that pending B logo, but it is for a different purpose. So also you should refrain from using that. Do you have anything to add here, Nico?
No, I mean, most of
Okay.
this is common sense, but
Yeah.
thank you for the reminder.
Yeah, and on a good note, to sum up what we've maybe talked about today, I want to also share some areas on how you can why it's a good idea to become part of the B Corp community, and how you can actually communicate these reasons. We can maybe call them making the case. It is important to become a B Corp certified company to actually protect your mission, because once you have the B Corp certification, then you actually share with the whole world that you are a business that uses its force for good. As we talked about, there are legal changes that you can make. It is important to do that, to give a clear message on your intentions as a company. And also, it is, I think, great to become being part of a global movement consisting of leader companies. So when you are part of the community, then you are also a leader. For example, in Turkey, we still have a very small community. So every company that becomes a B Corp certified company in Turkey is now a leader in their own sectors. And also, it gives a clear differentiation from your competitors, from your sector, and in your geography. So it actually helps avoid greenwashing, which I think is very helpful as well, because a lot of companies can communicate that they create an impact, that they are sustainable, that they have a great performance, but actually it doesn't mean anything if you can't actually show and measure and actually can communicate this. It gives you a chance for you to do that. And there are many cases actually that after becoming a B Corp certified company, it is easier to attract investors. So I think it is a great upside as well. And we talked a lot about improving and benchmarking your performance, and you can do that continuously throughout the process. And if you do that, actually, it makes your business more resilient. As the global and local contexts are always changing. With the BIA, you have a chance to be resilient and do risk management. And as I also mentioned, the BIA is also in line with many global methodologies as well that measures performance. So if you're a B Corp certified company, it means that you are checking a lot of the other boxes as well. And it also can give you a great opportunity to share your impact and story through a meaningful way when you have a B Corp certification. So we see a lot of companies doing lots of creative things with the B Corp logo. When you become a part of the community, then automatically it makes you part of the B Corp story as well. So B Corp and B Lab has a very strong mission. And if you become part of the community, then you share that mission as well. And I also really enjoy being part of the community, and it gives you a chance to collaborate as we are doing right now. And also, there are lots of different events and different webinars, different Zoom talks that we all get together from different parts of the world and share our ideas. And also, it is a very collective society. So, for example, right now the BIA is going through a development phase, and B Lab is continuously asking our opinion and asking our feedback on that. So it gives you a chance to actually be part of the creation phase as well. And I think the last but not least, it gives a chance for you to attract and retain talent, which is an obvious one, but a lot of people actually prefer companies that have a B Corp certification. So it is again another important thing to think about. So that's what I wanted to share as well. I'll give the word back to Nico.
Thank you so much, Irma. That was inspiring. And before we come to an end, you may be wondering, what do I do with all of this information? Um, will it help to receive this slide deck afterwards? I'm not sure. It was a lot of information. And so there are different ways in which you can do it. You can do it yourself. If you do it yourself, please at least ask for help in your organization. If you're a one-person organization, ask friend to ask for help to another friend. It will be harder, obviously, if you do it yourself. You learn a lot. A faster way to do it is with the help of experienced consultants, and for that we have B leaders, which are, yeah, as I said before, trained consultants by B Lab. But I want to put special emphasis on B Corp Way partners, which are consultancies that are really experts at guiding other organizations through their B Corp journey. And I'm going to share here on the chat the section on our website where you can meet all B Corp Way partners, among them S360. Again, they have gone through an application process with us and shown that they have the experience required. We have regular calls with B Corp Way partners. And I'm very happy to see another B Corp Way partner in the room, which is Saida Casca from Portugal. Thank you for joining, guys. So those are the different options that you have to go about it. Progress over perfection. Please don't freeze. As I said, get started, speak to others about it, so that they help you. And that's about it for today. Before I stop sharing my screen and get back to see your faces, which I'm looking forward to doing, I want to finish with a quote from one of B Lab's founders. And I think it's a quote that it's as important as ever today. And I'm going to read it out loud. It says, if business played by a different set of rules and was actually improving the climate, rebuilding local economies, communities, and actually creating jobs with dignity, all of those things would lead to more stable societies and more stable governments. And I think that some of that would make us more resilient. I hope you agree. And let's get to work.